My name is Jeffrey St Laurent, and this is the Tuesday Live Show. Keep coming at you each and every week. I help coaches transition to a full-time business, and today's topic is the difference between a lead and a potential client, because they are very different. And if you don't know the difference, that's why you're here, and that's why I'm here able to help you, because I didn't know the difference between a lead and a potential client. I thought everyone I talked to was a potential client, but I was wrong. And maybe for the sake of conversation, you could just say everyone's a potential client. But when you understand what I'm talking about today, you'll understand why I'm saying there's a big difference. With that being said, before we get started, I do record all of my Tuesday shows and I put them in my university on my website, sellingcoaching.com. Like I said, I help coaches transition to a full-time business. So I have a lot of fantastic resources, if I can say that myself, on my website, sellingcoaching.com. Start off right on the homepage. If you enter your name and email address, you'll instantly get access to an audio program called Launching Your Coaching Business, the first 3 vital steps. That will also put you in my email community. I deliver a lot of great information on there on a weekly basis. I can stay top of mind, help you out, and then also let you up to date on some things that I'm doing, one of which is my 14-day GoPro challenge. We just launched another one if you're watching this live, and I'm going to be doing one more in this calendar year coming up soon, and I'll be announcing those. But wherever you're watching this, if you want to learn more about the 14-day GoPro challenge, visit the website GoProChallenge.com. Makes sense. And you can check out more and learn more there. With that being said, let's talk about this. The difference between a lead and a potential client. Now, this comes from even just yesterday, and when I was working with one of my clients, and I'm working with him now probably about 4 weeks or so, or 4 sessions, which probably is like about a couple months worth of time. And they came to the call and they're like, man, I got a bunch of potential clients. And I'm like, oh, really? Well, tell me more. Tell me more about what this is and who they are. And as they were telling me, I'm like, okay, well, those are leads. They're not potential clients. And he's like, what do you mean? I'm like, well, let me explain to you. And the reason why I want to share this information with you today and with the distinction is because I used to think, when I started this off in 2004, when I started my full-time coaching business, I used to think everyone was a potential client. And I used to get very excited. I still get excited, but I get excited. How about this? I get educatedly excited because I understand the process. Before I didn't understand a process. I didn't have a process when I started. That's why I'm doing what I'm doing now as a mentor coach. And so I would get excited that I would have all these potential clients. And I would spend a lot of time with them, and I would give out a lot of complimentary sessions. People call them discovery calls, etc. Whatever they were, I was investing a lot of time and energy into people. And on the back end of that, no one was hiring me. And it was frustrating because I thought I was doing a good job. And for the people that showed up, that was another thing. Some people weren't showing up. I'd be having a conversation, it'd be going well, and I'd be like, oh, hey, do you want a complimentary session? Because I thought they were all potential clients. And then it'd be like, sure. And then some people wouldn't show up. Some people would reschedule and then never show up, drop off the face of the earth. Most people would show up, have a great session, and I feel like, wow, that was just like mind-blowing session. And then it's like they don't hire me and then give me every excuse in the book. And I would get objections, and I would just, I don't know if now's the right time, and blah, blah, blah. And so I wouldn't get clients. I got clients. It doesn't mean you won't get clients if you don't understand this distinction. However, you're doing a lot of extra work and using and spending a lot of time and emotional energy. And I was high and I was low because I would get so excited, and then I would get so frustrated because I thought I was doing a good job. And here's the difference is I didn't have a qualifying process. The main difference, if I could say it bluntly right up front, is the main difference between a lead and a potential client is a potential client is someone that qualifies for your time. They qualify to be a client because they have certain criteria that they've met. Someone who just comes to you and there's a conversation and they say, hey, tell me more about your coaching. Hey, how much does it cost? Or I might need a coach, or tell me a little more about what you do. Or even if they don't say anything like that, but they're in let's say you start a conversation somehow. It could be virtually in Messenger. In the future, if you meet someone and you talk to them and they seem interested, or you feel like they would be a great potential client, but you haven't understood more about where that person is and what they're looking for, right? Those are called leads. And I hate to use these terms because they're people, right? But I need you to understand these terms and the distinction between them. It's going to help you with your process, right? So the leads, those are just people that are either inquiring about your coaching through your website, in person, via email, messenger, any social media, or any type of virtual communication. Whether they're asking directly about it or you feel like there might be some potential for you to help them. They're leads. Now, how do they become a potential client? Well, that's where we've got to spend a little time with them. And this could be in a virtual communication. I'm not saying it can't be done that way. I've done that many times virtually. However, I like to, once the conversation progresses a little bit, or we start to progress the conversation, virtually, or even if we had it, if it happened to be face to face, I want to get that person on the phone. And I just simply call that a qualifying call. And a qualifying call is to see if they qualify to be a potential client. Qualifying call is brief, 10, 15 minutes. Can it last longer? Absolutely. But it's a brief call where we get to connect. I get to understand three vital things. And if you don't meet those three vital things, you're not a potential client. The first thing, students of mine, you'll have heard some of this before because it all weaves together. It's different ways of looking at it. But the repetition of it is what's going to allow you to understand it. And then when you get yourself out there and you start going through it, that's what with my mentor coaching clients, they've heard this stuff before, right? And that's why some people, they're like, oh, Jeff, how do you give all this stuff away for free? It's valuable stuff. Yes, it's valuable stuff. But you can understand it logically, but when it comes time to do it, that's where when I work with my mentor coaching clients and my group stuff and my one-on-ones is I'm helping you through it. That's when it really starts to make sense. But for right now, let's go through these three things that allow someone to qualify as a potential client. One would be the need. They've got to have a need. They've got to really have a need that they want to do something about. It's got to be urgent. They got to be sick and tired of it. They got to be like, it's got to be bad. And a lot of people think like, oh, well, I don't want to work with people who are in a really bad situation or down and out or always, a 0 out of 10. I want to work with people who are doing great and they want to take it to the next level. It's like, great, go ahead. You can do that. And I've worked with people like that. However, the vast majority of people aren't in a position like that. That's a very small percentage of the population who's already doing well and wants to take it to the next level. Most people, they're just status quo. They're average. They're on par. It's not bad enough. It's not good enough. It's just whatever. And one day is hard. One day is great. And they just go through the motions. Most people, things have got to get bad enough, tough enough, ugly enough, and they've got to have enough resolve, or they're going to be sick and tired enough to want to do something about it. And that's what I'm looking for. Not all the time. It doesn't have to be like, oh, I'm down and out. It just means they've got to have a pretty strong need. Now, the second thing of the three things that they need to qualify is the timing's got to be right for them to do something about it. Everyone has needs. Everyone wants to do something about those needs at some point. It just means that, it doesn't mean that everyone that has a need is the timing's right to do something about it. They could have just had a baby. They could be moving. They could have lost a job. They could have, now some situations like losing a job might be great and the timing might be right if they're looking for a job and you're helping them with something along their career. However, if they lost their job and then they're looking to do maybe something else, whatever it is, the timing might not be right because maybe they're financially it's tighter, or maybe their focus should be in finding a job, and as much as they want this other thing, right? So those are the things we got to understand about the timing of where they're at, and the need, the timing's got to be right, and the third thing is they've got to really be open to how you can help them. They've got to be open to considering how you could help them if they were to hire you. If they haven't said it already, if they've entered into this conversation, this qualifying call, or in a back and forth conversation with you, and they haven't started it by saying, tell me more about your coaching. How much does it cost? I want to learn a little bit more how you can help me. Some version of that. If they haven't done that, at this point, they've got to be open to considering that. They've got to be open to taking a closer look. If they did come into the conversation saying, hey, tell me about your coaching. What does it cost? I want to learn more about it. Now we've got to understand, why is that an option for them? Why are they considering hiring someone like myself? Why would help be valuable? Now, they probably don't know anything about coaching, right? So we've got to just start to understand, like, why would, having someone helping you with this situation, however I can help, but about getting some type of help, why would this be valuable for you, and why right now? We've got to understand those things. And there's no real threshold. It's not like, oh, they've got to have these 3 things and they've got to be a certain number out of a 10. You've got to, here's what you've got to do. You've got to really start to listen, put on your coaching listening skills. That's what we do as coaches. We listen. And we've got to really hear not just what they're saying, but the energy behind that, because it's very easy for us to put our blinders on when we have someone on the phone that we think is a potential client, but they're still a lead. If we think they're a potential client they could say whatever the heck we ask them, and it doesn't matter what they say, and we're like, all right, I'm just going to offer them a complimentary session because I want to get a client. But if you're asking the questions and there's hesitations and there's pause and there's and there's and there's indecisiveness, our job is to elicit a decision at the end of this process. At the end of a complimentary session, if they qualify as a potential client, we're eliciting a decision. And so we, through this conversation, have got to elicit micro decisions along the way. So tell me about your need. Why is now the right time? Why do you want this so badly? Why is this so important to you? How long have you been wanting this for? What makes today different than yesterday? And now, why are you open to working with someone like myself? Why do you feel you need some help? Things like that. We've got to start really listen to that. And if they're strong, it doesn't mean they have to be over the top emphatic and, absolutely unequivocally, yes, and I want help, and now's the time. And, they don't have to be, up there. But there can't be, I don't know, I just, and if they're like that, it doesn't mean they don't qualify as a potential client. It just means spend a little bit more time with them to understand. Turn on your coaching skills a little bit. I'm hearing some hesitation. I'm sensing some pauses. I know you said now's the right time, but there was something about the way you said it, which kind of like leads me to believe there's something else there. What's going on? Tell me what you're thinking. Explore a little bit. Don't be so quick to be like, hey, let's go. Understand them a little bit. If anything, they're getting a feel for what coaching is, but we're doing the right things to understand to see if they qualify or not. And then if those 3 things check out, now what you have is a potential client. That's it. Now you have a potential client. You went from a lead, which is just an inquiry, someone who messaged you, started a conversation, you're having a conversation with, however it is. Even if you know something about them, even if you think you know the need and the timing and that they're open to working with you, but you haven't really had a conversation to clarify that, they're still a lead. I've talked to too many coaches. I've worked with too many coaches who they've come into a session and they're like, oh yeah, this guy, this girl, they're definitely a potential client, even as I've taught them this, and they're like, I know the need, I know the timing's now, and I'm like, well, have you clarified that with them? And they're like, no, but I mean, I've had it, and I'm like, no, until you clarify it, they're not a potential client. Because here's the thing, if you assume anything, you lose. You lose at this game. And it's not, Jeff, it's not a game, blah, 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 whatever. It's whatever you want to call it. If the second you start to assume, the second you start to not ask a question, the second you're not thorough every step along this qualifying process, leading to a complimentary session, leading to you asking for business, assuming all goes well, anytime you assume, you're missing things, and then they have questions, or there's not great communication, there's not set expectations. Those lead to questions. Those lead to confusion. Those lead to you not understanding. Those lead to objections at the end. They lead to indecision, and they lead to you not getting a client. And that can pan out, and there's so many variables in there, right? This isn't like, oh God, I wish this was just a very tight process. However, the way I'm starting to teach you, and then how I can help you if we were to work together one-on-one or in my groups, is we really tighten it up. Because when I'm working with my clients, I'm like, all right, like last week, one of my clients, I'm telling you, this guy is a rock star, and he's working so hard, and he's like, Jeff, I am messaging people. I am reaching out to people. He's tracking it. He's doing everything I'm telling him to do. And he's like, oh my God. He's like, I feel like I'm giving these comp sessions and they're going incredibly well, just like I described today. And he's like, I'm not getting any clients. And I'm like, all right, dude, let's calm down for a second. You're doing the works, right? I'm like, let's have a session. We did a Zoom. I'm like, share me your screen. Show me what you're saying to these people. And we went through like line by line. And I'm like, well, this is why, dude. And we went through and we tightened up his process. Here we are, not even a week later. I just got an email from him last night. Got my first client. Sign him up because his approach was off. He was moving too quickly and he wasn't doing what I'm starting to teach you here. So now this stuff works. This is the stuff I do. This is the stuff I teach. And so I'm starting to expose some of you to this. So think about what I was talking about here. Think about the process and think about the distinction between a lead and a potential client. That's going to allow you to better and more thoroughly assess and set expectations along the way, which only allows you to set up for yourself for success at the end of this process. It makes the end of this process so much more easy. When I get to the end of my process years ago, I used to sweat. My heart used to bump out of my chest. I had like the big gulp swallow. Literally, I'm not even joking. And I would get so nervous when it would come to that time to talk about my prices. And now it's fun and it's exciting and it's easy and it's effortless because I'm very thorough with my process. It doesn't mean I'm flawless and perfect. It just means that I'm very thorough with my process. So 9+ times out of 10, I'm getting a client. You know, do I give fewer complimentary sessions this way? Absolutely. But the ones I do show up, they're engaged, they want it. I know they want it. They know what to expect because I've set the expectations. And 9+ out of 10, hire me and move forward. And those that don't, there's a reason why. And maybe I missed something necessarily, or maybe it just, there's some reasons you just, doesn't matter how good you are, doesn't mean they're going to move forward. It just means you're doing it more intelligently. Hopefully this has been helpful for you. And this allows you to start to understand this process. And if this is something that you feel like, you know, not only, maybe you're not ready for this. Maybe your business isn't at that point where you're out getting leads or you're not marketing yet. I mean, you need help getting out there, or maybe you are getting leads and you're having this type of situation and the frustration side of that. You need some help, and consider working with me. Consider hiring me as your mentor coach. And I can help you set those structures up so you can get yourself out there, get you to bat, so to speak. That's what I love doing with my clients. Get them to bat, because this is the stuff I love the most, is having these conversations and helping my clients through this. So if that's something you want to learn more about, how I could help you if you were to hire me, just go to my website, sellingcoaching.com, fill out the form at the bottom of the Work With Me page, and I will reach out to you. I will call you back or leave a voicemail and set up a time where we can chat. That's our qualifying call. I'm being transparent, right? This is what I'm teaching. That's my qualifying call. And we're going to have a relaxed conversation, 10, 15, 20, I don't care, whatever it is. And I'm going to learn more about where you're at, what you're looking for, why is the timing right, why are you considering potentially working with me, and if those things check out, guess what? I'm going to offer you a complimentary mentor coaching session. But doesn't mean I'm going to do that with everybody. So again, sellingcoaching.com, fill out the form at the bottom of the Work With Me page. I'll follow up with you and we decide where to go from there.